construction of the Luwingu-Lupososhi-Samfya Road will resume when funds are secured and the new contractor procured. B, the total contract sum for the two lots for the upgrading to bituminous standard of the Luwingu-Lupososhi-Samfya Road was 754,233,897 kwacha 93 ngwe. Answer to question C, the time frame for the completion of the project was 30 months from the date of commencement. And the C, the total length of the project road was 191 kilometers, broken down as follows. 1, 113 kilometers from Samfya to Kasava via Lubwe, that's lot 1. And 2, 78 kilometers from Kasava to Luwingu via Chungu, lot 2. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Bahati.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for the response. Madam Speaker, the road in question is very important for our small-scale farmers and our traders, both in Luapula and Northern Province. Madam Speaker, a stretch of this road actually is in Bahati constituency, in Katangashi ward. Then there's a part of Samfya, goes through Lubwe, Funabuli, Lupososhi, and Luwingu. And the contractor was there previously, Minister, did some works. I think there was graveling that was done to a certain extent. So my question is, are you considering for now, just continue with the graveling until up to Luwingu, or we have to wait and wait for when funds will be available? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you for the follow-up question from the Honorable Member for Bahati. Additional information, the project is currently in the process of termination due to continued fiscal constraints faced by government and the need to attain debt sustainability. For ease of implementation, the project road has been split into two lots, as I've mentioned. Samfya to Kasava via Lubwe, lot 1, which is 439,062,226 kwacha, 85 ngwe. And the Road Development Agency contracted BSBK Limited to undertake the upgrading of 113 kilometers of Samfya to Kasava via Lubwe Road in Luapula Province, Lot 1. And the works commenced on 1st June 2014. However, due to fiscal challenges, in June 2020, the project was rescoped from upgrading to bituminous standard to gravel standard, and the contract sum revised to 371,650,970 kwacha 45 ngwe, including VAT. And as of now, the overall physical progress currently stands at 64.1% against planned 98%. The contractor had fully mobilized and completed 72.7 kilometers of clearing, grubbing, and 72.7 kilometers of road bed preparation, 59.3 kilometers of sub-base, 11.2 kilometers of cement stabilization, and surfaced 11.1 kilometers of double surface dressing from Saila towards Lubwe. And the sum of 7,500,000 was paid to the contractor towards the advance on 4th August 2017, out of the total certified amount of 17,920,477 kwacha 64. Due to persistent fiscal challenges and failures to attain financial closure, the project could not take off and is earmarked for termination. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for yet another opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Minister of Infrastructure. Minister, you are aware that the Northern Circuit has great potential for tourism, and obviously any road going to Zambia is a very important road that can unlock the huge potential that Zambia has in terms of tourism. I want to find out from you, Minister of Infrastructure, from that perspective of unlocking the huge economic potential of Zambia and avoiding coming to Mansa for you to go back to the area identified. Are you prioritizing this road from the perspective of unlocking the huge tourism potential that Zambia presents? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the Honorable Member for Honorable Kangombe for Kamfinsa. From the way his question is structured, I'm not sure he understands the geography of that area. However, I'll explain. This road is from Musaila, it's about 15 kilometers from Zambia, and it goes into Chifunabuli through the following 3 chiefdoms. Chifunabuli is not Zambia, it's a different district. Through Chief Chitembo, through Senior Chief Mwewa, through Chief Mwasakombe, all the way to Kasava. And it's from Kasava now where there is a wetland area where a bridge was an attempt to put up a bridge that would lead into Pososhi constituency and onward to Luwingu. I state this because I've been there. I know this geography fairly well. And we have committed ourselves as government, to answer his question, that in fact our previous colleagues had rescoped this particular road, especially the lot 1, which is from Musaila to Kasava. They had rescoped it to gravel. And on my visit there, I had stated and promised the people of those areas that we are again going to rescope it back to bituminous standard from where the tar road finished, which is 11.1 kilometers from Musaila. This will be done. All we are waiting for is to ensure that we put in place the necessary financing so that at least the section from Musaila all the way to Kasava can be tarred. Being on that road is in a terrible state, and it is the intention of government that this be tarred. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bahati.
Thank you once more, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister has done well because he's mentioned the chiefdoms where this road passes. But I'll mention the constituencies where the road passes so that the Minister may appreciate. And it's good that Honorable Kapara is from Chifunabuli and is in the House now. Madam Speaker, this road passes through Bahati, and what is tarred in Bahati is not 15 kilometers, Minister. I think it's just a stretch of less than 5 kilometers. It's not 11. I was there just a few weeks ago. Then it passes also through Bangwehulu, Chifunabuli, like I mentioned, where Honorable Kapala comes from, and Lupososhi. So, Minister, you mentioned that you want to rescope this road and you mentioned that it's in two lots. So I want you to clarify, are you going to just tar the first lot, or you tar the whole stretch of 199 kilometers? And could you please attach the time frame as to when we'll see a contractor at site? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honorable Member for Bahati. The 11.1 kilometers I talked about is from Musaila. That is on the Mansa-Samfya Road. And as you go towards Chifunabuli, 11.1 kilometers, that is the site of the first bridge called Ndova, which is still under construction. That distance is 11.1 kilometers. In terms of Lot 1, that is where the commitment to re-scope it back to bituminous standard has been made by this government, so that we have a tar road from Saila all the way to Kasaba. Those who know the geography from Kasaba, there is about, I would say, in the region of about 5 kilometers of a wetland that requires a causeway to cross that wetland into Lupososhi constituency. This project is still there for a gravel road, which was rescoped by the previous administration, but even that still requires some funds. We understand that not only will it make it easier for the people of Chifunabuli to move, including those going to the Catholic mission, the Aluwe mission, but it links actually the two provinces, Northern Province and Luapula. And it has been explained to me that it can actually be a shortcut. People coming from Mansa going all the way into Northern Province. So we do have plans, but at the moment, the re-scoping back to bituminous is for Lot 1. Lot 2 will continue as gravel, but even that is awaiting the sourcing of funds. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lukasha.
Thank you very much once more, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, considering that most of the roads that have been abandoned are experiencing dilapidation, what is the current state of maintenance of this road before you identify a new contractor? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
I thank the Honorable Member for Lukasha, Honorable Chisanga. Throughout the country, which are in terrible state. And if I was to talk about Luapula, since this section of this road in Luapula, again, even within Luapula, there are a number of roads that require urgent repair. The constraining factor is the resources. And that is why people like me, and I hope the whole House, wishes this government all the best in the current attempts to resolve the debt situation. The Minister of Finance, the President right now, they are in Europe, they're in France, to see if they can push this process to conclusion so that we begin to address the issues that require resources. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, my question is a rider to a question posed to you by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa, who spoke about the potential, the tourism potential that lies in that corridor. And you have really explained the routing very well. When you were settling at your ministry, you had been to this August House on several occasions, informing this August House that you were going to prioritize the model of public-private partnerships in dealing with some of these roads. Of late, we don't hear so much of that model. Have you shifted policy? What's your position now? Are you still enthusiastic, with, in trying to resolve some of these infrastructure challenges, especially the roads, using that model that you were so much committed to? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, and I thank the Honorable Member for Shwangandu and the whip for the opposition. This government, in fact, we have mentioned on the floor of this House, the PPP model of financing for road construction is a flagship policy for the UPND government. Our desire is that on a yearly basis, we should have up to 20 roads that are concessioned out on a PPP basis. We have concessioned the ones that we have, such as Chingola Kasumbalesa, indeed the Lusaka Ndola, and so on. Through this process, we have identified constraining factors that make movement slow in completing some of these concessions. Part of that is the PPP Act, which we are going to amend. We are going to bring it to this House so that we take out some factors that slow down the progress. In terms of the number of in the pipeline, there are quite a number. Mwenda Kasomeno in Luapula, Sakanya, Ndola Mufulira, Mufulira Bokambo, Solwezi Kipushi, Kambimba Road from Lumwana West, Mutanda all the way to Jimbe, Kasempa, Kaoma, Luampa, Simungoma, Sisheke to Livingstone, even his own road from from Sarenje all the way to Chinsali. We are in discussions to have these under PPP model. The road that we are talking about, which is Lot 1, which is Musaira to Kasava, there are some roads, and the country must accept this. There are some roads which will not attract PPP, and therefore they are prioritized using our own government funds, because the concessionaire will not be able to recover the money because of the volumes of traffic that traverse those particular roads. This is just a fact, and the government is aware of this. Where we think the volumes are high, and we have had bids, unsolicited bids, we shall progress those. Where we know that we will not get bids, we will direct our own treasury funds when it's available to have those roads rehabilitated. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mfumbwe. Sorry, Mfuwe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, the people of Luing would like to know the time frame that you are attaching to as when the funds will be made available for this particular project. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
I thank the Honorable Member from Fue for that follow-up question. Please understand, if you look at this year's budget, the amount of resources locally generated in that budget is barely about $6 billion total. This amount of money is not sufficient for us to undertake these works using our own resources. And because we are overborrowed, at the moment we can't borrow. And that is why the previous government, in November 2020, they defaulted on the Euro bonds. So the key is to unlocking this debt situation, and that is why we are saying that the government, the president, has spent sleepless nights. Those who talk to him will tell you that he spends nights thinking, dealing, making calls to have this issue of debt resolved. Thankfully, we think we are almost there. When this is done, Madam Speaker, to release some resources, the first place that will be visited will be this House with a supplementary budget. It is the members here, your members, Madam Speaker, that will debate the supplementary budget. And when that is concluded and enacted, that's when we shall know when resources are made available to undertake some of this work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I think we have exhausted. The last question, Honorable Member for Dudumwezi, and then we move to the next question.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm surprised. And the predecessor for the honorable member who has brought this question, actually, on the floor of this House, said that there was massive development in Luingu. And the honorable member for Lukasha has confirmed that the roads were abandoned. Honorable Minister, what hope are you giving for the people of Luingu who were abandoned by the previous regime? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. Honorable Member for Shuangand, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I raise on this very serious point of order, pursuant to Standing Order 65, 1A. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi is one of the senior-most honorable members of this August House. And is supposed to be well versed with the standing orders of this House. Is it in order, Madam Speaker, to deliberately mislead this August House and mislead the Honorable Minister who is responding to questions regarding to one road in Wingu, and accuse his former colleague without the evidence which he can lay on the table as having spoken in this August House about this road having been done and that this road has been abandoned, when the Honorable Minister has been very elaborate in his responses that when the resources were not available, the rescoping was done, or in the effort to try and give the people of this area a road. But is it in order, Madam Speaker, to opt to politic? And is my very good colleague, is it in order to breach standing orders by dragging his former colleague, who is no longer here to defend himself, regarding the allegations he's making? I seek your serious guidance, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I was following the questions and answers. I believe the Honorable Member for Dudumwezi was quoting the Honorable Member for Lukasha, who said that the road was abandoned. So I don't know if the Honorable Member for Lukasha did say that the road was abandoned. But the Minister is here. Let the Honorable Minister of Infrastructure answer the question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You see, the things we say in this House matter. And I think the history, the genesis of the Honorable Member's question arises from some of the things that were said on the floor of this House. Statements like unprecedented infrastructure development came from this House. Okay. And as Minister of Infrastructure, I've traversed the length and breadth of this country, and I've come back to this House and say that by and large, I have not seen this unprecedented infrastructure development. And that is why, Madam Speaker, those who were making maiden speeches just when this parliament opened in 2021, we heard statements of we have done so many in this constituency and so on. I can go province by province. And in fact, some of the most virulent questions concerning lack of infrastructure are in areas which were designated as strongholds for a certain party, for a certain party. Eastern Province, there are many, many roads that require to be done. Muchinga Province, where the honorable member comes from, there are many that requires to be done. 2 weeks ago, I was in Northern Province. Terrible state. Luapula, terrible state. If I mention the others, it's even worse. Our role, Madam Speaker, is to correct that which was left undone. And we shall do that as a government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Bahati, you want to raise a point of order. What's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Standing Order number 65 is so clear. The minister is supposed to respond to the questions of the people of Zambia, Bahati, and Luengo. But he's just busy politicking. We don't want to hear.
Honorable member for Bahati, when a question, you can take your seat. When a question is asked and it's on the order paper, of course, by practice, we give an opportunity to the people coming from that constituency. But on several occasions, we have allowed other members from other constituencies, just like this afternoon, we allowed the honorable member for Kamfinsa to ask for questions where he doesn't, the constituency where he doesn't come from. So that is a normal practice, honorable member for Bahati. Sometimes the honorable members of parliament not coming from a particular constituency can also help in unraveling the issues in a particular constituency, although they don't come from there. So let's work together in harmony. Thank you. Thank you. Can we make progress? The honorable member for Mandevu had closed, so please, you indicated a bit late. Next time, make sure that you indicate early so that it doesn't appear that I'm excluding my son from asking questions. Next question, the honorable member for Mufumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.